A familiar place, a strange feeling. The house was quiet, too quiet. I hesitated at the doorstep, my fingers gripping the cold brass handle as I pushed the door open. My aunt's house had always been a place of comfort, but something about the silence unsettled me. She wasn't home. I knew that much. She had called earlier, reminding me to let myself in and wait until she returned. But now, standing in the dimly lit hallway, a nagging feeling told me I wasn't as alone as I thought. I stepped inside, shutting the door softly behind me. The air smelled faintly of lavender, the scent of my aunt's candles lingering from the night before. I glanced around, scanning the familiar space. The modest living room, the worn-out couch, the framed family photos lining the walls. Everything appeared as it should, yet the unease in my chest didn't fade. Then I heard it. A noise. Faint, but unmistakable. A rustling sound, followed by a whisper. My breath caught. I turned toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms. The sound had come from there. My cousin was supposed to be out. That's what my aunt had told me. Yet, the door to her room was ajar, a sliver of darkness spilling into the hallway. I took a slow step forward, my pulse quickening. The floor creaked beneath me, and I froze. No further sound came from the room. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was the wind against the window. But then, another sound, a hushed exhale, barely audible. My stomach twisted. Someone was inside. I swallowed hard, each step forward feeling heavier than the last. As I reached the doorway, I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to look. Some instinct, buried deep within me, screamed to turn around, to walk away. But curiosity, or maybe something stronger, pulled me in. I nudged the door open. The dim glow of the bedside lamp cast long shadows against the walls. At first, I could only make out tangled sheets, a mess of fabric draped over two figures lying close together. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. Then, clarity struck like a bolt of lightning. Beneath the covers, my cousin lay curled against a figure I recognized instantly. A boy, his face partially obscured, his body relaxed in sleep. But it wasn't just the intimacy of their position that sent a sharp chill through me. It was the unmistakable fact that they had both shed their clothes. My breath hitched. The air felt thick, suffocating. I took a step back, heart hammering against my ribs. A sudden, irrational fear gripped me. Not fear of being caught, but fear of knowing too much. Of seeing something that could never be unseen. I turned and ran. The hallway blurred around me as I rushed toward the door, the walls seeming to close in. My only thought was escape. Away from the house. Away from the truth. Away from whatever had just unraveled before my eye. A betrayal uncovered. I didn't stop running until I reached the front porch. The night air was thick, humid, pressing against my skin like a second layer. My hands trembled as I braced myself against the railing, my mind reeling. I sucked in a breath, but it did nothing to steady the pounding in my chest. Had I really seen that? The image was burned into my mind. My cousin lying there, tangled with him. Him. The one person I never expected to see in that room. I squeezed my eyes shut, but it only made the memory sharper. Their limbs intertwined, their bodies bare, the quiet intimacy of their sleep. My stomach twisted. It felt like a violation, like I had walked into something that was never meant for my eyes. And yet, the betrayal cut through me like a blade, swift and merciless. The pieces clicked together, forming a picture I had been too blind to see. The late-night whispers. The stolen glances. The way she always laughed a little too easily at his jokes. I had ignored it, dismissed it as nothing. But now, standing here, my chest hollow with realization, I understood. This hadn't happened overnight. How long had it been going on? How many times had they found excuses to be alone, knowing I wouldn't suspect a thing? A wave of nausea rolled through me. I gripped the railing tighter, the wood biting into my palms. Part of me wanted to storm back inside, shake them awake, demand an explanation. I wanted to hear them scramble for excuses, to watch them struggle under the weight of their guilt. But another part of me, The part that knew there was no answer that would make this hurt less, kept me rooted to the spot. I had trusted them both. My cousin, she was family, someone I had grown up with, shared secrets with. And him. The boy I thought I knew. The boy I had trusted. The boy I had let into my life without hesitation. A sharp pain flared in my chest. I had never imagined betrayal could feel so physical. I glanced back at the door, debating. If I left now, if I walked away, did that mean I was choosing silence? Did that mean I was letting them win? The thought made my stomach churn. But what would confronting them change? Would they even care? A breeze swept through the porch, cool against my burning skin. I took a shaky breath. I had two choices: face them, demand the truth, or leave and let the weight of what I had seen settle in my bones. Neither option felt like winning. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard creaked, a sign that one of them might be waking. I turned on my heel and stepped off the porch, letting the night swallow me whole. I walked without direction, my feet moving on instinct, my mind miles away. The night stretched before me, the streets bathed in a soft, artificial glow from the streetlights. Everything around me felt detached: distant voices, the occasional hum of passing cars, the rhythmic tapping of my own footsteps against the pavement. But inside, chaos. My thoughts twisted and tangled, a mess of disbelief, anger, and something deeper, something raw and aching. The betrayal was still fresh, still searing, like an open wound that refused to clot. I had seen it with my own eyes. There was no room for misinterpretation, no space for denial. And yet, part of me still wanted to convince myself that it wasn't real. That if I went back, if I opened that door again, I would find an empty bed, rumpled sheets, and nothing more. But I knew better. The air felt too thick, my breaths too shallow. I stopped at the corner of an unfamiliar street, pressing my hands against my temples, as if I could physically push the thoughts away. The night carried on as if nothing had changed, as if the universe hadn't just shifted beneath my feet. I thought about turning back, about marching through that door, and demanding answers. But what would I say? What could I possibly ask that wouldn't shatter me further? How long? Why her? Was I ever enough? The last thought stung the most. A car passed, its headlights casting a brief glare before vanishing into the distance. I exhaled shakily. There was no easy way to process this, no quick fix for the hollow space expanding inside me. They had chosen secrecy over honesty, desire over loyalty. And I had been blind. My cousin, my own blood. She had smiled in my face, laughed with me, shared stories, while all along she had been hiding this. And him, the boy who had held my hand, whispered promises, made me believe in something real. Was it ever real? Or had I been living in a story they had already rewritten? I dug my nails into my palm, grounding myself against the spiraling thoughts. I needed space, space to think, space to breathe. But the further I walked, the less distance I seemed to put between myself and the truth. I needed to decide. What came next? Would I let this define me? Would I carry this betrayal like a weight, letting it drag me down? Or would I take this pain and turn it into something else, something stronger? The night stretched ahead, endless and uncertain. But for the first time since I had opened that door, I realized I had a choice. I wasn't just running anymore. I was deciding. Days had passed, but the weight of what I had seen hadn't lessened. If anything, it had settled deeper, like a splinter too embedded to remove. The house felt different now, tainted by the memory of that night. The walls that once held laughter now seemed to echo with unspoken truths. I hadn't confronted them. Not yet. My cousin acted as if nothing had changed. She moved through the house with the same ease, the same effortless smile, but I saw it now, the small hesitations, the way her eyes flickered to mine when she thought I wasn't looking. She knew. Maybe not that I had seen them, but she sensed something was off. And him? He hadn't reached out. No messages, no calls, no explanations. That, more than anything, told me everything I needed to know. If he had cared, really cared, he would have noticed my absence, the silence stretching between us like an ocean. But he hadn't, and that was its own kind of betrayal. I sat in the living room, fingers curled around a mug of untouched tea, staring at nothing. The confrontation hung in the air, inevitable yet daunting. What would I even say? Did I want an apology? An admission of guilt? Or did I just want them to feel a fraction of what I was feeling? The door creaked open, and I looked up. My cousin stood there, hesitant, her smile faltering just slightly. "You okay?" she asked, casual, too casual. I considered lying, pretending I didn't know, swallowing the truth like a bitter pill. But why should I? Why should I make it easier for her? I set my mug down carefully, meeting her gaze. "How long?" She froze. A slow, creeping realization crossed her face. "What?" she asked, but her voice had already lost its confidence. I leaned forward slightly. "How long has it been going on?" For a moment, she said nothing. Then, a shaky breath. "It's not what you think," she tried. I let out a quiet laugh, cold and sharp. "Don't insult me." She swallowed hard, looking away.
Guilt. Shame.
Maybe even regret. But not enough. I didn't mean for it to happen. I waited, giving her space to say more, to explain, to justify. But there was nothing she could say that would make it better. I stood, feeling strangely calm. "You did mean for it to happen," I said simply. "And now I know." Her lips parted, as if to protest, but I didn't wait for a response. I walked past her, leaving the conversation and everything else behind. Some betrayals demanded confrontation. Others only needed acknowledgement. This one just needed distance.